Jonathan, I'm nervous now. Do you know why I'm nervous?
Why?
Because I think I listened to a podcast of yours where you sit back and you say you like to listen to how people introduce you. And you're always fascinated by, and now I'm like, okay, how do I introduce you?
It's just because I'm a little bit of a chameleon.
You're complex.
I have a lot of things going on.
Here's, and I decided this is how I'm going to introduce you. You are, without a doubt, one of my favorite YouTubers.
Well, that's very kind. That's very kind.
Without a doubt. Okay, if you have not subscribed to Jonathan's Symbolic World, you got to do that literally right now, because you're not going to get richer and deeper analyses and takes in culture. I love the way you analyze culture. But you are, I mean, formally though, you're an iconographer. I would say I'd call you a public intellectual, for lack of a better term. You basically get paid to think.
I guess
exactly.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you are the creator of the Symbolic World. And it's a wonderful channel, and I urge everyone to subscribe to this right now. You will not be disappointed. Absolutely beautiful. So I think probably half our audience knows you anyway. They've seen you around. You're pretty prolific. So I've been wanting to chat with you forever.
We have like little exchanges, Instagram, different places, and it just never happens. Happy to meet you.
It's such an honor. So you just came back from ARC in the UK. You want to give us a little...
Sure. I mean, ARC is something that Jordan Peterson started a few years ago. I think it was about 4 years ago now, with Philippa Stroud. It was really, in some ways, Jordan wanted to do something like a kind of reaction to Davos, something that had the same kind of gravitas, but was moving away from the values that Davos was promoting. And the big purpose was to open up the Overton window to be able to talk about things that were taboo, like talking about family, talking
especially
about
4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It was insane. Yeah.
And so it's been great to see it have success. And now this year taking on a lot of the AI question. So a lot of discussion. That was my speech this year was on AI.
Oh, you did something? Okay, cool. Yeah. You've been doing a lot of things on AI. I think you've been really reflecting on it.
Yeah.
Which is it's interesting. I'm curious. Well, let's just get right into it in that sense. So if you don't know, we're in Atlanta. We're at the ACCS conference, the Association of Classical Christian Schools, repairing the ruins. We're all doing our part to repair the ruins here. And one of the things that I think is interesting in the AI area is we'll talk about AI on a personal level, like how it affects us at an individual level. But what about AI at the level of like geopolitics? You know, it's like there's an arms race against China right now. And then the notion is he who controls AI controls the world. And we don't want China controlling the world, kind of thing. Have you been able to put some of that together?
I mean, that's really what one of the things, the speech I did at ARC this year was about. You know, there's a term, they call it the Moloch trap.
Right.
You know, and I think that this is what's happening in AI is that it's an escalation trap where once someone introduces a technology, you're forced to implement it.
Right.
And in implementing it, you end up sacrificing the things that you care about just in order not to lose the competition. And I think that that's what's happening with AI, is that we are mindlessly rushing to introduce it into everything, everywhere, all at once. And we're to hell with the consequences. We have no idea.
Right.
And the people that are implementing it, the people that are making it are the same ones warning us that it could kill everyone.
Right, true.
And so you have this, it's
Elon particularly. Elon was very freaked out by it.
And so I think it's very worrisome. And I don't think there's a systems reaction that is, I mean, the snake's out of the bag, right? You can't put it back in. And I understand how, in terms of practicality, we have to run this race. But so my appeal is mostly to people, right? To persons, and say, this technology is actually trying to enslave us in the sense that we will become dependent for it in everything that we do.
Yeah.
And so my appeal is to people to not let that happen to them personally.
Right. Right. To cultivate a wisdom.
Yeah, cultivate the soul,
The soul, yeah.
So, what the AI is trying to do is in some ways to exteriorize all of our intelligence, all of our memory. And what I'm saying is you have to now put in deliberate effort to do that and keep that.
Yes.
for example, like when we teach our children to play music in order to play sports, most of us don't think that that'll be their job, right? We don't think that they'll be professionals. And what I'm saying is we need to do that now for everything.
Right.
Right. It's like you need to learn poems, learn scripture, get the wisdom, get the knowledge inside you, not because it'll be useful for you professionally. It will actually ultimately, but mostly because those that will be truly human are the ones that won't become vassals to this thing.
It's so interesting because it seems like it's forcing, you're bringing up a really great point. It's forcing the return of classical practices.
Yeah.
So I know
we're in the right place because this is the future. Like classical education, humanities, it's the future of education. They used to tell us to learn to code, right? You make sure you get a job. Well, that's over.
That's over. Now learn Latin.
Become an accountant?
Right.
Not sure.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Now it'll be, learn Homer, learn Latin, learn scripture, read the philosophers, have wisdom, have discernment. And that is actually, whether the AI thing leads to a collapse or to a kind of utopia, those people are the ones that are going to win. So.
It's even in testing, they're bringing back oral testing now. Yeah.
So we're back to the Middle Ages.
Exactly. The rhetorical dimension to it and being able to master the material in a way that's eloquent and beautiful. And so it's fascinating how it is an archeo-future kind of vibe that's happening.
And that's why, in some ways, the only hope that I have for this AI revolution is that it leads people to be forced, to develop wisdom.
Right.
Because either you do or you die. Either you do or you just become...
You get absorbed.
You just become an AI slop mind that is just basically feeding the machine with intelligence. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's... You're talking about... In that line, you're talking about fairy tales tonight, right? And you have at your booth this whole beautiful... You have a beautiful booth. I got to tell you that. We need a booth like this. This is beautiful. You have a lot of aesthetically beautiful booth, the covers of your new books. So you're into publishing now, I guess.
That's right,
Wow, yeah. So you're hard to introduce.
Well, it's all the same thing. Really, what I believe is that, even before this AI revolution was happening, my sense is we have to lead with beauty. We have to lead with positivism. One of the problems with the conservative world for the past few decades is that everybody's reactionary. Yeah. Everybody's just trying to stop, the bad things from happening. Let's prevent our kids from accessing this. Let's protect them.
And how successful has that been?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
What I say is, no, we have the best stuff.
Yeah.
Like we have the best stories. We have the best art. We have the best music. We have all the best.
Yeah.
And so let's actually put that forward.
Yeah.
And let's move with that love. And that's why, so I talk online and I do these YouTube videos, but I want to lead by example. That's why the icon carving and now the fairy tale and the book publishing saying, we can do this.
Yeah. What are you going to be talking? And just give us a little snippet of what you're going to be talking about tonight.
Well, because here we're at ACCS, when I grew up, there was a little bit of a shadow over fairy tales, sense that fairy tales are maybe they're pagan, maybe they're not.
Yeah, and they're not real.
No,
they're not real.
Exactly.
I've heard that from parents.
And so what I want to do is I want to give the teachers and the people here confidence to, first of all, notice how close they are to scripture and to just give them confidence to be wanting to read them to the children,
Yeah. I when I looked up your talk, I immediately thought of Chesterton. Yeah. Where he said that fairy tales taught him orthodox Christian doctrine before he ever encountered the doctrine, that baptized imagination kind of idea. And his essay, Ethics of Elfland, was one of my favorites that I would read with students all the time about an epistemology of wonder and awe as opposed to the skepticism and the doubt and the flippancy.
And that's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Because one of the reasons why we started the fairy tales, when I decided to actually do it was when I heard that Disney was making the live action Snow White back in like 2020, 2021. Yeah. And I thought, wait a minute, they can't do the kiss. They can't do the dwarves.
So true.
There's so many parts of it that they can't do because they're all politically captured.
Right.
So I thought, okay, now's the time to just take the stories back. They don't want them. They actually don't want the stories.
That's so
just
true.
Take them back and let's show them beautifully, with that kind of sense of wonder and a participation that that's what they're for.
What is that? It's so odd. They latch on to these timeless stories.
Parasites.
Well, yeah, that's it. They latch on to these stories and then they can't do anything with them. It's like,
this is the thing too, that everybody, for the past decades, we've had a whole vision of an ironic vision.
Yeah.
So everything is upside down. Everything is trying to destroy the structure.
Yeah.
Right? So we take the stories and then we infiltrate them. We subvert them.
Yeah.
We make them say the opposite of what they used to say.
Right.
And this has been the approach of media and of movies now for the past several decades. Now, what's fun about that is that runs out.
Yes.
Because you can only make fun of something for so long. It has a
built-in terminus,
until you have to say, oh, wait a minute, I forgot why this was valuable enough to make fun of in the first place. So we're at that moment now. It's like, let's show them why they were making fun of. Let's show them how beautiful and powerful they are.
That's it. I was thinking about this actually today when I was thinking about what, I wanted to chat with you on. Because your command of the significance of story and just how our minds function in narrative form. How does that relate to your iconographic craft? Because as a musician, we have equilibrium, we have dissonance, and we have resolution. So there's a narrative logic to it. What about iconography?
Yeah. So one of the things that happened to me was, as an artist, I discovered the medieval visual language, and the traditional language of the Orthodox Church as well. And I realized that these were doing what stories do, but in space, right? So there's a coherence and there's a logic to the image that does things with the structure of the story in a manner that the story can't do, right? So you can actually create atemporal relationships where, let's say in the story of the Nativity of Christ, you can show things that happen in different moments in the story and kind of bring it together.
Right.
And so that helped me understand the structure of the stories. And then when I went back into the stories, then I could see the structures in the stories too. So for me, learning about the visual aspect, how things are placed in space, helped me then go back and understand the narrative structure in time.
And we think narratively, we think visually in narrative as well. I'm curious, have you run into any of that? So particularly here at ACCS, I love ACCS. I got to tell you, I am so excited. It's like the Orthodox have taken over ACCS. We have finally stormed the castle. So I became Orthodox 20 years ago. And so when I was teaching and would come to this conference, it was like me and a couple other guys, and they kind of cast us away and said, just go in your own corner. Now, you, Alex, have you met Alex? Oh, I'm forgetting Alex's last name. I think he's a prof down at University of Austin. He's Orthodox, Greek fellow. Myself, bunch of people. So I think we're taking over here. But have you noticed in the evangelical world a kind of hesitancy to embrace the visual?
So I think that actually at this moment, I think there's a hunger.
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
And I think that what you see is, in some ways, many of the evangelicals, the young people, they realize how dry, and how kind of empty a lot of their practices are. The way that I kind of understand it seems like after World War II, a lot of the churches, what they started doing is saying, oh, if we do this, will you stay? Can we, if we have pop music, will you not leave? If we turn this into a concert and a conference, will you stay?
Don't forget the aerobics class.
Right, exactly.
Tuesday,
if I let you bring your coffee into the church, will you stay? And so you just keep going until basically you have a concert and a TED Talk.
Yeah.
And then I think that now the young people that want to come back or that are looking towards Christ, they're saying, no. Why would I have something that looks like the world? I want the whole thing. I want something that fills up my world, that helps me understand, like you said, the visuals, the music, everything being connected. So I think there's a hunger for liturgy in general, a hunger for the sacramental. And that also reflects itself, I think, also in the desire for a visual understanding of the story.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I noticed that with my students.
And if they don't embrace it, the problem is we're moving towards a visual culture anyway. Right. It's already happened. Right. So your students are on Instagram all day, and then you tell them images are bad. Yeah. It's like, well, you're in trouble because their world is made of images.
Right,
so.
Right, exactly. So rather than sanctify the image, you end up conceding it to that.
Conceding to that side.
Yeah. Do you think, so in classical education, we focus so much on the trivium, the quadrivium, logic, language, and so forth. Are fairy tales in particular a way of kind of setting the narratival context for that. It almost seems like it's pre-intellectual. It's pre-cognitive.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that, I have a beauty first approach to the transcendentals. And I think that's why maybe something like ACCS at some point, they've been hungry for what it is we're bringing, because obviously the Protestant world has been amazing at reason and, at logic and leads to science and apologetics and to argument and all of that is very powerful. But there is a lack in terms of how do we present the beautiful? Because we know it's one of the transcendental.
Right.
And so I think that the fairy tales, the way that we try to talk about it, the narrative and understanding that you're in a story, right? That you're participating. Seeing history not as something that you study just to learn facts, but seeing history as your story. This is your story that you're part of, right?
Yeah.
And I think that to me, that's a way to anchor people into the classical learning.
And I don't want to diverge into politics, but it does seem to be the rise of nationalisms, the rise of civilizationalisms is kind of a recovering of story of a people, it seems to me.
There is one of the things that the modern world has done is that in some ways it wants to make you into an individual that is just completely disconnected, completely movable, right? You can just take an individual from somewhere, put him somewhere else, and it'll just fit into the economic machine. But that's just not what we are, right? No. We're people in families, in communities, in churches, in nations. And
ecology.
Yeah, exactly. There's a natural ecology to our organizations. And I think that what you see with the kind of return of certain flavors, like you said, nationalisms and everything, is the hunger to be integrated, into something that, that has body, into a story and into a people. Of course, there are dangers to that, and that's why also we lead with, I love this idea that we also always have to remember to be connected to the transcendentals. And that's why I also believe that Christianity is the only way to go. Right? Because nationalism without Christianity, it's war. That's what it is. It's war against
it's very tribal. Yeah.
And so if we can maintain our vision on Christ, then we can have this vision of the heavenly Jerusalem.
Yes.
Where all the kings of the nations bring their crowns to Christ.
Yeah.
And they have their own story. They come from wherever they're coming, but they can still act together and bring their crown to Christ.
Aren't we seeing, it's somewhat superficial, but aren't we seeing that a little bit with the World Cup? There is kind of this sense that the world is all coming. The Norwegians are doing their row and, everyone's got their own practice for their own story. And yet they all blend together. It's beautiful. It's cooperative.
That is the image of what the world could be, right?
Yeah.
An image of what the world could be is not the globalist
managerial
reduction of everyone to just a blob of individuals, but rather this fractal participation, right? A subsidiarity. You see that in the Catholic social doctrine. It's just a basic subsidiarity, right? The local embedded into the higher form.
Yeah, the Shire. Yeah. Well, I was also thinking of just the way J.R.R. Tolkien put all this together, just bringing all the mythos of the world together, like in a Silmarillion, retelling it in a thoroughly English way, for his English people, but yet it's so they can participate in this grand, glorious, mythological world that ultimately ends up getting converging around Christ, the Logos.
Yeah. One of the things we're doing that has been a big part of the symbolic world is we have something we call universal history. And what we're trying to remind people is that all of the peoples of Europe, they all saw their origin in the Trojan War. So everyone, right? So the Britons, Brutus goes to Britain, and but the Scandinavians too. People forget that in the Eddas, the supposedly gods of the Scandinavians are said to be people that fled Troy, right? The Aeneid.
I was just thinking Virgil's Aeneid, retelling it and going to Rome, right?
But it's in every single one of the European peoples. They do this thing where they try to connect to Troy. And this is the desire to both have your own nation, but also understand that we participate in this greater story, right? Yeah. And so this is what we want. It's like to say we have Troy and we have Jerusalem, that kind of holds us. The resurrection of Christ makes this into something that can be more than just the war against all. It can actually be this beautiful fractal mosaic that everybody's participating in,
I could talk to you forever, but I know you gotta go somewhere. We have actually a panel this evening that we're going to be talking about. Where could people just kind of keep in touch with what you're doing. You do have lots of wonderful resources as well that I think everybody should avail themselves of.
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, just go to thesymbolicworld.com. So thesymbolicworld.com. You'll find our press there. You'll find the YouTube. We also have a blog, and we also give online courses. So we try to offer as much as possible so people can recover this sense of wonder that we talk about.
Yeah, and you're doing it. You're doing it beautifully.
Well, thanks.
You're not just communicating beauty. You're communicating it beautifully. Jonathan, it's an honor.
Thanks. It's great.